Yeah, intuition's huge, and that's something that I think a lot of people have lost connection with. And to kind of bring this to here, because I definitely want to get into the work that you're doing on the land. They say a lot of it actually has to do with our diet. So the things that you're eating are messing up like your second brain, which is in your
No.
stomach.
Hmm.
So if you're not eating the right foods and the right nutrients, then that kind of goes all haywire, and you lose that intuition, which is real. Like they train people in the
Yeah,
CIA on how to use it
that's
properly.
right.
So it's a very real, not hippy dippy thing. So what I see a lot of conversations in the food space is that people are trying to kind of monopolize it, and they treat it like IP now. So when you see things like Beyond Burger, like the mission that they're on is to kind of create, they
Mm.
want to own that vertical. Um, what you're doing here, I think, is so fascinating because you're growing your own food and you're trying to have other families here to be as, I guess, sovereign as possible.
Yeah.
And to me, I think that I've heard you talk about like scalability, and people are like, well, if it's not scalable, but it's almost like these industries have become so inflamed that that's the reason that they're not working now. And there's these two authors that wrote, it's called Sacred Cow, and it gets into the meat industry. And it's like, well, the way that we're doing factory farming is obviously atrocious. I don't think anyone is like, yeah, that's how we should be raising our food. But they're like, well, how else do we do it? Because we have to be able to provide meat for the rest of the world. So if you have these tiny little localized farms that are regenerative and they work with the land, everyone can eat meat in a sustainable way. It's just the model that we currently have is not sustainable. And the conversations aren't being had because that obviously doesn't benefit the people that are making the most profit right now. So I think where we're seeing the future of everything kind of going, especially even with Web3, is everything getting decentralized and then having like these smaller little tribes. It's almost like we came from tribes and now we're going full circle into tribes, and then we're going to have tribes that do altcoins and NFTs and live in the metaverse and all of that. So I'd love to get into the work that you're doing here and what that big vision is.
Yeah. Um, so I guess the first thing is to respond to what you're saying. I'm looking to develop a ethical and spiritual perspective that I can then start to build upon.
Mm-hmm.
And so that took some time to just figure out, like, what do I believe? What's my relationship to things and money and food and systems and all the things. So, and I've been doing environmental work for a long time, so I have an understanding of conventional activism
Mm-hmm.
and environmentalism, but it's not working. The oceans are still getting screwed, and there's still pollution, and climate change is real. So what's new? How are we going to do this? And yeah, decentralization is something that's really, really inspiring to me. The idea that we can create little cohesive, little island, like smaller islands of cohesion, little communities where we can all be sovereign and self-sufficient, and then network out to other communities that are also taking care of themselves. Because what happens with factory farms or monocropping is once it gets to a certain scale, that's when disease starts to be introduced and it starts to ravage. And that's when cows start producing methane, at scale that doesn't, that the environment can't handle. Because a system that is built, an environmental ecological system, a farm system, a food system that's created in harmony with itself, there's no waste. Everything that is released goes back into the land. Like this manure on the ground is now fertilizing the fields. But when you go to a factory farm, you have a lot of manure or shit that just ends up getting collected and doesn't get used because the environment can't use it fast enough. And then it just goes as a waste product. So when you have waste in any system, the system's broken. And the way we're doing things is we have a lot of waste. And it's this linear system where our plastic goes in the ocean or in the environment and is wasted. Our garbage goes into landfills and doesn't get reused. But in a regenerative, organic, permaculture design system, everything gets reused and utilized
Mm-hmm.
within the system. So there's no waste.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel like I'm rambling. What was the question?
It was kind of like what your vision is and like the role of decentralization with like these inflamed industries. And I like that you brought up the monocrop agriculture, because I think a lot of people right now, they think that if they automatically go vegan, that they're doing something that's good for the environment. And it's like, no, 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 no. You could arguably say that that is just as bad, if not possibly worse, than what we're doing with factory farming, because all the chemicals that you're using and all of like, you're still killing an immense amount of living creatures. Like they're just a lot smaller and maybe not as cute as the ones that you're trying to save. So both of the things, anything at scale that big is a problem.
Yeah, and I think it's important not to fall into cynicism where there's no solution.
Right.
But I do believe that local solutions are the best, where you start working in harmony with others, so you can have that tribe. So borrowing from technologies and wisdom, both ancient, bringing the tribe back, using technologies of plant medicines that are going to give you a lot of insight, help you see the world in new and novel ways, and a touch of, the system, the way this earth is designed, and then also modern technologies, like using them to best support whatever you're building within community. So yeah, using crypto, which I'm a huge fan of. In fact, here on the land, we're looking to build our own coin so that we can trade with each other and store value locally, so that it doesn't get sucked up by centralized governments or banking systems. And that way we can start to raise the value of this particular land unto itself. And what we're building here is a diverse, interconnected network of systems: food creation, community building, social, and also familial. So like families, 5 or so families living here, all participating to grow food. Then we have enough food for the community. We share it with our neighbors. We can sell some to make a couple of bucks.
Mm-hmm.
And then familial, how are we going to take care of each other so that we don't have, you're talking about searching for a nanny and how hard it is to have any freedom or ability to move and operate, because, you don't have anyone to watch the kids for a couple hours. So can we as a community start to take care of each other and each other's kids, just like they used to do back in the day? It takes a village. Yeah, it does. So let's create one. All these things are being built and being created, and it's new and interesting and curious and fun. And I believe we should all be laboratories for what's possible. We should all be, as individuals, trying things, and then as communities trying things, because the system as it is failing us. It's starting to collapse. We see it. So what are we going to replace that system with, as opposed to propping it up artificially? We can actually start to create the systems that will ultimately replace the current one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's more important now than ever, because as you see things that are, I guess, being like overregulated, if you want, because you see certain countries, and certainly this one, that are considering doing like social credit scores, and that gets worrisome when you consider like the doomsday environmentalists that are like, apocalypse now. So they're gonna be like, you've had your red meat quota for this week, or we don't like how many eggs you've had. We really want you to have this soy version. And it's like, well, how do you maintain that sovereignty that you want when you have such a powerful system of saying that you can't do it? And to me, that's crypto, and that's decentralization. So if you have all of these little tribes and you have your own token, then no one else is in control of that value, and they can't manipulate it as well, right? Because like what we see with the US dollar right now is manipulation. It's like things aren't only just more expensive, it's like your dollar is actually just worth way less. So that combination is going to be a problem for a lot of people.
Amen. And I see it all the time in environmentalism, and I've been doing this for 20 plus years. There is this arrogance in which everyone wants to control everybody and tell everybody. And I was there. I did the same thing. Tell everybody how to be and try and run around controlling all things. And it's the same mentality the colonial mentality where we think we can go in and dominate and tell and control and have dominion over the world, nature. We try and control nature so that it serves our bidding. Try and control people so they serve. We exploit nature, we exploit people. And it's the same, and it's crazy to say, but environmentalists are also expressing, many, modern doomsday environmentalist mentality is expressing that same fear-based control over, people and the world, and almost in a manic, neurotic fashion, versus recognizing that nature, if we're learning from nature, it's about diversity, absolute diversity, biodiversity, where each individual element is operating in its own sovereign way, and it's interconnected and working together. It's not about one monocropped mentality that's going to tell you what to do and how to fix it.
Yeah.
The minute someone tries to tell me they're going to fix it,
Go the other way.
I go the other way. You think you're actually going to, it's crazy to me, environmentally speaking. We think, okay, climate change is real. We're participating in creating, gases in the environment that are creating, or at least contributing to climate change. And then people think that we're going to come in and fix it. How? The complexity of our current system, economically, socially, that has been developed and established over hundreds of years, thousands of years, and now we're just going to fix it with like a one size fits all.
One
drive
policy,
electric cars.
Mm-hmm.
That's your answer. Or
Right.
Don't do this or don't do that, or do this or do that. I think the only answer is, how do we empower individuals to be more in touch with themselves, more in their intuition, in their hearts, and not so much in their minds and their ego, but living as they need to on an individual sovereign level to contribute to a positive world. And I don't know the answer to that, because that means everybody has to choose. Everybody has to be a part of it, and everybody has to start recognizing their importance and their power, and then choosing to participate in it. But we have to create the systems that excite them, I guess. And so what does that look like? I don't know.
I think it's like they work in tandem with one another. So it's like, as problems start to get worse, like the solutions are kind of forced to arise. And that's strictly just from, I would say, capitalism partially, right? So it's people, that's one way where profit is a good thing, and like that being a motivation for some people is a good thing, because like if you want to save money, it's almost anyone who's like a proponent of or opponent of cryptocurrencies are like, oh, it's terrible for the environment. Well, first of all, that's not true, because it's kind of been debunked that cryptocurrency is worse for the environment than fiat money. Like fiat money takes a bigger toll.
Right.
But no one wants to say that, just people that want to regulate
right. And
it.
who's done the calculations? Yeah.
Right. It's so new.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to make the most when it comes to mining, obviously you're going to be trying to save as much energy. So then you're creating innovation there. And the same we see happening with electric vehicles. We're not there yet. So to have a policy that's like everyone has to be electric by 2025, well, your power grid already doesn't sustain what you have right now. So how is that going to work? So I don't think it's by forcing people. I think the problems will eventually start creating solutions with those entrepreneurs and like those inventors, and then kind of trickles down to where the people start adopting that on like the level that they're able to. Not everyone can go buy a $50,000 electric vehicle because gas is too expensive. Like that doesn't make sense. It's kind of like let them eat cake.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're so out of touch.
Right. They should just eat, solar panels.
Right. And then we're going to pretend that also doesn't have a cost. Like, have you seen those mining fields? They're atrocious.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And you have little kids that are digging tunnels to get minerals. It's not great. You know what I mean? Like this iPhone is not great.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's why I still have a 9.
Do you? I'm bad. I upgrade probably way more than I should. But
well, yeah, and then it's again, it seems like we're in a conundrum, but that is life, right? We, and can we just stop for a moment with trying to solve everything and change everything? And can we just be? And I think once there's a lot. That's the way the power systems have been created. That feel like we have to go around telling everyone else what to do and how to be. And back in the day, talking about old wisdom, tribal societies, it's not the way it was. People would come together in council, and they would work together. But now it's about power and dominance, and Putin, and trying to like use violence and control.